So I call to order this meeting of the Standing Senate Committee on Agriculture and Forestry. My name is Rob Black, Senator from Ontario, and I'm the chair of the committee. Today, the committee is meeting on its to continue its study to examine and report on the status of soil health in Canada. Today, our first panel, we welcome from Carbon-Terra, Jason Mann, Chief Executive Officer, and Rachel. We'll start with Senator Simons.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. In order to set up a carbon market that actually returns value to farmers, that a credit is worth something, that it's tradable, that it's backed by value. It seems to me like if we have a bunch of little voluntary markets, it's mostly just a good conduct flag that we're trading back and forth. So how do we set up an actual, is the phrase fiat backed? Is that what I'm looking for, banker guys? A credible carbon market that is, that you can prove that you deserve the credit because you actually have sequestered the carbon and it's actually in the ground and you've done the mapping and the testing to prove that. But B, that my carbon credit I can sell to Senator Deakin, and Senator Deakin can sell it to Senator Petitclerc. Senator Petitclerc can sell it to Senator Burry, and that it's not just like a gold star. It's actually something that has value, which will then encourage people to adopt the practices. Do you have to set up something that is traded like a stock exchange, like a commodity? How do we make this something that isn't just patting ourselves on the back?
This voluntary versus compliant, and we have a lot of debate on is voluntary going to drive the changes into compliance credits or vice versa. And we spent the last couple of years dealing with some of these voluntary markets, and it's a tough because it's an ever-changing landscape, and it's really hard to really set a path forward because you just don't know the rules. So developing something that could be, I would say, endorsed by the federal government, whether it's on a voluntary or compliant, would be just a great tool to start putting, where you can put something here that's fungible, that you can say this credit has a value, and even if it starts to trade in Canada and then can be adopted. That's what we'd like to see is we need the federal government and to work with the provinces instead of this mishmash of one province wants to do this and the feds want to do something else. We really need a coherent system that we can almost bank on, where we can say, okay, well, now we have a path. Let's build something. Because right now we're just guessing. We're trying to steer it, but we're just a small company. We need the government to step in and take some leadership on this. This is a legitimate credit, and they are legitimate, and that's the thing. So we need that kind of support.
Senator Petitclerc.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Hard to see your passion.
We like it. Merci beaucoup.
If I could just add, is it okay?
Yeah, very quickly.
The policies are plagued with, what have you done for me lately? That's the problem. What have you done for me lately? And so, we need the carrot and the stick. And yes, there needs to be improvement. Yes, there needs to be more adoption. Yes, we need to improve the wetlands, and we need to, do cover crops and more grasslands and take marginal land out of production. And yes, we need to have a better use of fertilizer. But let's reward for what's been done. It's not just what have you done for me lately. And I think that's the issue about how farmers look at it and go, wow. So.
Moving on to Senator Klein, followed by Senator Deakin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I hope you're as generous with time, because I get the sense we probably could use another hour on this one. But I'd like to get a question in both, but we'll see what we can do. Maybe I need to go on second round. But first question, back to, while you're on a roll there, I'd just like to go back to the comment that policy is really the issue. And just on that note, what's the message for policymakers that we should be delivering in terms of incentives for the early adopters of no-tilling, incentives to adopt new technology? We've got incentives for electric vehicles, and perhaps we should have incentives for new technologies to be employed in the area of where the Canadian farmers can be seen as the leaders, and I got the sense that potential is globally to be held out as that. So policy makers, incentives, and the absence of that, I agree, is a form of penalizing. And that being the sense, also the accelerator lane, how do we get them into the accelerator lane to make up 2 or 3 decades that have been missed? And is no-till, as you described it, carbon sequestration and no-till farming is a good climate change best practice. Is that good for all regions? Does one size fit all, or are there some regions where the soils are not necessarily adaptable to no-till farming and need to have some regular till? Running out of time here. You'd mentioned, and I maybe never captured the whole thing, but on carbon credits, it doesn't recognize no-till. And so is there a policy change needed there?
I think the direct answer is, though, yes, there does need to be a policy change, and yes, the government does need to recognize soil carbon sequestration. Absolutely. We could be leaders in that if we started with that, because we are the leaders. We're the leaders in Mintail. We did it because, I farmed starting back in the 80s, and, we had droughts in Western Canada. The ditches were full of dirt. The grasshoppers were mowing down the crop. We changed to Mintail and zero-till because of the climate. But now we're saying, well, you can't be rewarded for that because you had a benefit from that. But we really need to reward farmers for taking that innovation, and that innovation's being transplanted around the world. It's in Australia, it's in Ukraine.
We have Senator Deakin followed by Senator Bury.
Canada still has the world's most important mining and minerals investment conference every year in Toronto. I have a dream that perhaps someday we will have a carbon market that attracts that level of attention globally. And the fact that we are not taking on that challenge and opportunity is a source of immense frustration for me, and I think perhaps for others around this table. I'll speak just for myself. Every interaction I've had with officials at AAFC and advisors to the minister have left me frustrated, because they are not reflecting what we hear from scientists and from people on the ground and from farmers as to what is possible here and the amount of time that we can buy in fighting climate change if Canada were to become a global leader in exporting the technology and know-how around the world to have markets that had trust. So yes, government-backed policies and methodology with an opportunity to take advantage of a world opportunity and world crisis need right now. So let's get very specific on the things that need to be changed.
You need to set up an exchange. We should be the global leaders in this. We really are. Going back 30 years or longer, we are the leaders in nature-based. And quite frankly, the other countries are eating our lunch. Why is Singapore, of all places, they're just way out in front of us, Temasek Group and Standard Chartered Bank. They're out there setting up these nature-based exchanges. It's happening all over the place in countries that have a land mass of what? The size of, the size of Southwest Ontario. What are we doing? This is our domain. We should be leading it, like Senator Deakin says. I'd love to see where we have this. We are the go-to place. We are the go-to conference. We have the exchange that globally people trust. Government back it and let's get on with it.
And don't penalize farmers for the carbon they use and not reward them for the carbon they sequester.
There's so much more the farmers could be doing and would do. They need some guidance. All they hear about is, oh my gosh, there's tax carbon credits coming from Ottawa. That's what they think. They don't understand all the opportunities that are here. Yeah, they see it from the benefit of Mintail and better utilization of inputs and whatnot. But there's so much more that could be done if we just empower them.
Anything else?
Yeah.
Thank you. That was my question. Senator Cotter, followed by Senator Duncan.
Excuse me. First, apologies for missing your presentations in the early part of the questioning. I have benefited from conversations with Rachel and Jason in the past, so I have a fairly good idea of the perspectives they would bring. My apologies more, I think, with respect to you, Mr. Seymour. Mine is a bit less of a question and maybe more of a statement. A lot of this discussion, and sometimes inspired by interventions from Senator Deakin, feels like on the question of early adopters, kind of the story of the prodigal son that Senator Simon sometimes refers to, and in the sense that all kinds of people doing good achieve the same kind of reward as the person who comes along at the 11th hour and we all get to heaven. I think, is that how it goes, something like that? And it's frustrating in the sense that we forget about all the other sons and daughters who have been living a good life right up till then and contributing up until then, and they tend to be no better off. And secondly, there is a kind of a disincentive to be bold in early adoption here, not just in this area, but in almost other walks of life where government has a voice. Why would we take risks at the beginning when we'll let somebody else do it and we'll end up in the same spot and maybe better off? So it's a comment, but I'd invite your reflection on that.
It
Maybe
resonates with us. It's this whole, what have you done for me lately policy madness, I think. And, when you were asked, Senator Black, about the things that what we want a Made in Canada registry. We're relying on Vera and CAR and Gold Standard, and we need a Made in Canada registry that reflects what we value as Canadians, and we can lead with that. We need the government backing to give it credibility. I think we do need an exchange. I think we made a Made in Canada exchange. Why let Singapore do it? We should be doing it here. We have the nature-based credits. We're just exporting it like every other commodity. Let's add the value here, right? And we absolutely have to recognize this historical mintail. We have to do that if we want farmers to adopt more and empower them to do more. We have to recognize that mintail, whether we go back to 2015 or to 2010. We can pick an arbitrary date, but we just have to do that. And because farmers are investing money, and just like to buy a new air seeder to do this kind of mintail, it's $1 million. Who's going to pay for that? They expect to make it off the price of canola. There's other things there. I represent thousands of farmers across Canada that we're investing in building a new nitrogen plant. And there's a big target on nitrogen because of its emissions. But we're looking at building a plant with green ammonia. These are the things that farmers are doing to be proactive. They're putting up seed capital money to do all the engineering and design work, millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars, to try and improve the use of fertilizer, because there's a big target on nitrogen's back, and farmers are scared. Oh, you're going to make me use less nitrogen. Well, I don't think we need to use less nitrogen. We need to use it smarter. But to use it more smarter, then you got to produce a better quality product, and you have to have the equipment to apply it. This all takes money. So we got to find the rewards for them so they can get paid for the good things they're doing, so that they can reinvest it, because the farmer will reinvest it. We know that. That's where they like to spend their money. They like to spend it on their farm and improve their farm. So I think every dollar we spend passes Main Street 7 times, I think they say. So let's invest in Canada, invest in our farmers.
We now move on to Senator Duncan.
Thank you for your passion that you bring to this. I'm very interested in your comments regarding Made in Canada. Is there any mechanism that we could move this to a whole of Canada approach by government? Could we do something, carbon credits that would apply throughout the country? And how do we bump this to encourage some federal provincial cooperation? If we could somehow have the carbon credits achieved in Saskatchewan apply to northern Canada, or we can have a mineral exploration tax credit that applies across the country. Why not something similar? A tax credit?
Well, it does make a lot of sense, a tax credit for this. And it's not, because again, farmers are concerned about the carbon tax credit coming down the pipe, right? And we're all getting on our energy bills now, and they're looking for some offset for that, for the good work they've done. It doesn't have to be a check. It could be a tax credit. But, there's other activities that could find their way onto an exchange. I do think some kind of a government-backed exchange, though, we could lead that globally. We really could. I'm certain.
So if you can help us in any way get very specific, especially as a group of companies, I think it would be very helpful to us to know how to push harder and further and more explicitly, because the dream you put forward is a dream that I share for sure, and I think others around this table do.
Thank you. So you have some homework cut out for you, our witnesses. I want to say thanks for your participation, and thanks for your passion. It shone today, and we really do appreciate it.